A journey through the wine country of Burgenland really is a most beautiful experience. Seductive nature, places of history, enchanting Kellergassen, streets lined with wine cellars, and highly cultivated viticulture make the Burgenland a dream destination for a round trip. On the border that is situated between Austria and Hungary is a unique and natural space, Lake Neusiedl. In common with most of the region's lakeside villages, Halbturn is rich in history. It was first mentioned in 1318. Large areas of swamp and reed surround the Lake Neusiedl. The small market town of Illmitz has many important features, and here, in the deepest lying part of Austria, is the park's information centre. Illmitz also contains the most well-conserved farmhouse in the Seewinkel region, the Mönchhof, with its pretty traditional thatched roof, built more than 250 years ago. The history of Illmitz is closely associated with vineyards. They were first mentioned in 1598. In the middle of the 20th century, vine cultivation replaced traditional livestock farming and agriculture as the most important source of income in Illmitz. Around 40% of this agricultural area is now taken up with vineyards. Yet it was only quite recently that the farms were small and family-run. However, the vineyards have now been extended. Luckily, the quality of the wine has not suffered. Many of the vineyards provide information on their various wines, and wine connoisseurs from all over the world appreciate the noble vintage and quality wines. For some years now, the horse and carriage has been a popular way to get around the nature park. Around the lake, there are many scenic roads that can only be used by the horse-drawn carriages. The sightseers on this two-axle horse cart seem in fine spirits and enjoy their journey while the horses proceed at a leisurely pace. The rare albino donkey is also protected in this natural habitat, yet some years ago it was threatened with extinction. These striking albino donkeys were once bred by local farmers, but eventually that came to an end, until the National Parks administrators revived the tradition. Podersdorf, with its parish church, the Heiligen Katharina, was also badly damaged due to invasion by the Turks, and so, over the years, the parish church has been subject to much rebuilding work. The market town's second most important building is its 15-metre-high windmill, the largest in Austria. Although it dates back to the first half of the 19th century, it is still in perfect condition and fully functional. It is not only the past that is treasured here. The town's promenade shows its contemporary side. An idle time spent on the lake has its own value. There is the well-kept Lido, the long promenade along the embankment, and cafes and bars to relax in. The 12-metre-high lighthouse at the main entrance and in the centre of the baths is another of Pudersdorf's famous landmarks. Topped only by the picturesque sunset. The large ponds around Lake Neusiedl, with the many grey geese that can be seen here, are very popular. Many visitors to the Zick Pond consider the cute young wild geese to be the secret main attraction, some of which strut through life somewhat clumsily. As the park lies at the junction of several climatic zones, numerous species of plant and wildlife are to be found here. The park also boasts the primeval Przewalski horse, the only subspecies of the wild horse still alive today. The breeding of these horses became necessary because in the middle of the 20th century their numbers were in severe decline and threatened by extinction. Halbturn Castle was built from 1701 to 1711 as a hunting lodge for Emperor Charles VI. During the reign of his daughter, Maria Theresa, it was converted into the summer residence for Albert of Saxe-Teschen, the governor in Hungary. The building reflected the confidence for a new, peaceful time. No claim to power had to be asserted. Only the double-headed eagle above the entrance points to the Habsburgs. The Baroque design of the park also began under Charles VI and remained largely unchanged until the 19th century. Today's grounds became an English garden and were designed under Archduke Frederick by the then garden director of Schönbrunn Palace. The palace and park are considered a synthesis of the arts. Although damaged during the Second World War, it was reconstructed. In Mönchhof, a special kind of village museum is open to visitors, an original depiction of the way of life at the beginning of the second half of the 20th century. An old rural world that was constantly changing. Here is a real village with real houses and original furnishings. With a school, a barber shop, and a tailor's workshop. And at the cobblers, you can still admire the typical Burgenland boots. The farrier would have been busy shoeing the hooves of the many horses, as horse-drawn carts was still the most important means of transport at the time. And a typical laundry would not have been missing in such a village. The village police were called Gendarmeria. The doctor had a small surgery, and the post office was only responsible for mail. Cosy living rooms were often hidden in simple houses, and the workrooms and shops were usually located next to or behind one's own home. There are also fully equipped craftsmen's workshops. It seems everything is here, from the small dairy to the wine cellar with wine press and brick bottle racks. As well as 2 petrol pumps for the mopeds common at the time, and a small weaving mill. At the back of the complex, there is still a church built in the old style. On the slopes of the Leitha Mountains, on the northeastern banks of Lake Neusiedl, are the vineyards of the small market town of Eures. In addition to its hilly location, mild climate and fertile soil, its mixture of primeval stone, lime and shale is responsible for the high quality of its wine. Today, the agricultural area around Eures measures 420 hectares. Due to the varied composition of the soil here, the work involved is quite demanding, but makes for an even better wine. The grapes here are of the finest quality. Picturesquely nestled between the gently sloping hills of the Lake Neusiedl lies Vinden on the lake, surrounded by vineyards, meadows and fields. In amongst the nature, a very special kind of location for artists has been established here, unique in the European region. An open-air museum of art dedicated to von der Bertoni. In the garden of the former watermill, on old cultural ground, the world-famous artist has found his home. His sculptures are exhibited on the extensive grounds and blend in perfectly with the landscape, complementing the old buildings. The little village of Breitenbrunn is surmounted by the 32-metre-high Turktenturm, or Tower of the Turks. Today's landmark once served as a watch and defence tower, but evildoers were also imprisoned here. Culture-loving residents of the village set up the local history museum here, which presents exhibits on history and culture. From the Neolithic age to the 19th century, with displays almost to the top of the tower. Before the birth of Christ, the area was part of the Celtic kingdom of Noricum and belonged to the region surrounding a Celtic hilltop settlement. The Kellergasse is located on the western edge of the village and consists of more than 40 wine cellars. They are grass-covered tube-shaped cellars with wall facades at the entrance front. This is where the grape must is fermented and then stored in the cool as wine. The Kellergassen culture began with Emperor Joseph II. The forward-looking monarch relaxed serfdom among the peasants in 1781, and viticulture and marketing were subsequently permitted. Everyone produced in their own cellar, and the cellar alleys were created, a separate world of men below ground. Just above the wine cellars, vineyards spread out on the sunlit slopes of the Leitha Mountains. Purbach on the lake also has an age-long history. The origins of this settlement date back to the 6th century BC. Most of the buildings of the old town date back to the 17th century. Most notably, the Stiefelgasse contains a row of eye-catching buildings. As in the nearby villages, Purbach is also a wine-growing area. Families of wine growers have refined their craft over the centuries. A historic walk usually begins at the Turk's Gate, which is part of an old fortification complex. Around 1850, the cellar district was built just outside the city walls, as the cellars in the deeper-lying town faced repeated flooding. There are about 50 cellars in the Kellergasse, vaults built from limestone blocks and covered with a thick layer of earth. In front of the cellars are the so-called Buschenschanken, places where mainly young wines or Hörige are on offer. Most of the inns also, in any case, offer some typical regional dishes. With more than 18,000 hectares of cultivated land, the area around Lake Neusiedl represents the largest part of Burgenland. Donnerskirchen belongs to the region Lake Neusiedl Hill Country. With a mild climate and favoured by the calcareous soils of the Leitha Mountains. Like the neighbouring villages, Donnerskirchen once belonged to the Celtic kingdom of Noricum. Under the Romans, it then belonged to the province of Pannonia on the Amber Road. The Roman Catholic parish church stands in a dominating position on a terrace high above the village. The 4-storey west tower rises conspicuously above the longhouse. The present baroque building of 1680 is dedicated to St. Martin of Tours. The view from above over the lake and the reed belt is overwhelming. Ogau is another wine village around Lake Neusiedl. But as peaceful and tranquil as the village is today, it was once a hostile place. The Turkish wars of the 16th and 17th centuries certainly took their toll. Between the sieges of Vienna, this was a place of frequent hostilities and plunder. The Ogau War Memorial commemorates the victims of the Second World War. A notable characteristic of this area is its many old nostalgic draw wells. Ogau became known as Austria's oldest red wine village. The 2-kilometre-long Ogauer wine trail was laid out amid the hilly wine-growing area. It provides a fascinating insight into the history of the local vineyards. The Burgenland Free City of Rust is known as the City of Storks. The houses in the historic city centre date predominantly from the 16th to the 19th century. The oldest and historically most important building is the so-called Fischer Kirche, that was designed as a fortified church and was sited on the remains of a Roman watchtower. Today, all the buildings in Rust's Old Town are protected monuments, and so its magnificent Baroque and Renaissance facades have been wonderfully preserved. In summer, when the streets and squares of Rust are bathed in bright sunshine, it has an almost Mediterranean atmosphere. Next to the Fischer Kirche is Rust's neoclassical church. But the architecture of the church alone is worth appreciating. The wealth of some citizens came mainly from the cultivation and trade of wine. The many stalks give the town's chimneys extra special charm. The white stork, as it is found in Rust, normally nests on the same eyries each year. They come from their winter quarters south of the Sahara and have a seasonal marriage here. Lake Neusiedl is one of the largest natural paradises in Central Europe. Despite human habitation along its shores, the lake's natural state has been preserved. The historical origins of Mörbisch am See dates back to the 5th century BC. In appearance and character, it is the counterpart to the Free City of Rust, but there is also no lack of churches of different denominations. Mörbisch delights with its beautifully decorated houses and courtyard alleys, where oleander, in particular, is a popular and favoured floral decoration. Today, there is nothing to remind us of the once former devastation and plunder by the Turks. The diligence of the people and the use of the climate for viticulture and agriculture has helped one of the poorest regions become a popular one. The special climate and the calcareous soils favour the cultivation of vines. This experiential journey along the wine route has also shown that wine has always influenced history and culture.